It's time for our keynote speaker. I just want to give us, it's a highlight of the evening, Professor Jonathan Jansen. And I've got a bio here that I'd like to read first by way of introduction. Jonathan Jansen is Senior Professor at the University of the Free State, that's in South Africa. In 2016-17, he was a fellow at the Center for Advanced Study in the Behavioral Sciences at Stanford University. He is currently the President of South African Institute of Race Relations and the President of the South African Academy of Science. He started his career as a biology teacher in the Cape after receiving his science degree from the University of the Western Cape. He obtained a master's degree from Cornell University and then a PhD from Stanford. He holds honorary degrees from the University of Edinburgh, the University of Vermont, and Cleveland State University. In 2013, he was awarded the Education African Lifetime Achiever Award in New York, the Spenlove Award from the University of California for his contributions to tolerance, democracy, and human rights, and a Major Book Award from the British Academy for the Social Sciences and Humanities for his book, Knowledge in the Blood, that is published by Stanford University Press. His recent books include Leading for Change, As by Fire, The End of the South African University, Interracial Intimacies on Campuses, Song for Sarah, and for 2018, his books will include Inequality in South African Schools and The Politics of Curriculum, where he's the editor, and Know That I Know, a book on South African families who were separated by the racial laws of the 1950s. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long evening, but the highlight, or as far as I'm concerned, a highlight has definitely arrived. Professor Jansen, if you could come forward, please, and share with us a few thoughts there. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Except for the wedding of my drunk cousin, I've never given a speech after 10 o'clock at night. And so this is one of the cases in which the speech will be shorter than the introduction. I don't think you need somebody to make a speech. I thoroughly enjoyed the amazing speeches we heard from some amazing principals and business partners. That is truly, truly special. I sat there and I really did hope you would go on, especially the guy from Jonkersfontein, or Justenberg, who couldn't stop talking. So I thought you guys were truly amazing, and I think it's really special. Let me just say what I really liked, that you brought your parents. I thought that was really cool, because normally the parents bring the kids, to school and so on. So let me just tell you, I obviously wrote a speech. I threw away the speech because I thought this is, first of all, too long for 10 o'clock at night. Secondly, it's irrelevant because you made the speeches, and I want to tell you what I heard sitting there. So if you read my Times column this week, you would have seen a story about a woman at the engine garage in Claremont, where there's an all-night Woolies inside the store. You know that shop? Mm-hmm. Okay, opposite Bihari's, my favorite Indian restaurant, apart from the Burkhab Kumbay. So it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I got a terrible 6 a.m. flight to Bloemfontein to go back to work. And so I go in there at 4 a.m. because it's the only place in the Cape where you can get sugar-free biscuits. So I go in there, but there's a woman standing mopping the floor, the sort of, the tiles just outside the shop. And as I rushed in, remember it's 4 a.m., it's cold, she stops mopping and she looks at me and she says, with the cadence of a Cape Flats woman, I hear you leaving the country, eh? And I said, excuse me, how do you know all my business? How do you know where I'm going? No, I read it in the paper somewhere. I said, okay. And then she said something that completely changed my... If I was thinking of staying in California, that changed it. And she said, you can't leave the country, eh? My son needs you. Now, between you and me, I am never going to meet her son. Never. But for her being present in the country made all the difference. That's what you heard here tonight. Time and time again, I heard people saying, well, he didn't know or have all the answers, but it doesn't matter. He was, I'm paraphrasing, she was present. Are you present as a leader in the life of your followers? You know what I'm talking about. You come home from work on a Friday night, and Nadia's put up something that's going to go very late. And you get home, and you're tired, and there's stuff on your mind, and you're thinking about tomorrow, and then your spouse says, hands up if this happened to you. Your spouse says, you here, but you're not here. Come on, guys. With Catholics, you're always the first to run forward and, you're here, but you're not here. In other words, you're physically present, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, you're in another place. And to be present, therefore, means something more than to be physically visible. It means to be engaged in that moment with the person with whom you work, or whom you are privileged to lead, or with whom you are a partner. So I'm thinking of doing something a lot longer on what does it mean to be present. Did you know that absentee fathers often live in the house? They're there, but they're not there. And so you see, being present means nothing. Take this bunch of hooligans called parliamentarians. The one is fast asleep. The other one, you can see they're not there. Half of them are working on their cell phones. They're physically present, but they are in fact not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is to make sure that Hillwood doesn't have another kid exposed to gunfire and loses life. You see, they've long forgotten that their role is to serve the people, not to entertain their own corrupt politics. So to be present doesn't mean to make a noise. To be present doesn't mean to shout and scream and insult and demean. To be present means, did you know that in all the major faiths, you don't even have to be visible to be present? The way I grew up as an evangelical Christian, they would quote to me all the time. I still remember it, Matthew 18 verse 20, which says what?
I'm Muslim.
You can see, just sit with your barakat.
That's not what it says.
Which is, when you've got 2 or 3 people together, there I am, right there. Wait a minute, I don't get it. I'm a man of science. I don't see you. But you see, Christians would know that. Muslims would know that. Jewish believers would know that. Yet you don't need... I go to Shabbat on Fridays, sometimes with my Jewish friends, and I can feel a presence at Shabbat. When I go with Tahir Salih to the Long Street Mosque, I can feel a presence. You don't have to be visible in order to be present. Now, some people do this naturally. You know, you got people like that, leaders like that. They just know. They just know. The woman this morning, I had such an incredible experience. This woman this morning, by the way, the best place for scones. It's a bit expensive, so I go once a month, but the best place for scones is the Vineyard Hotel at the back there. It's very English, so you feel like you're in bloody Nottingham, but, you know, but the scones are good. Okay? And she just came, she was doing the tea. She didn't finish high school, but she is more, and she says, Professor, I can see you're not well today. What's wrong? And I had a burden. She is present in that moment. And I know that the principals of these schools, I'm sure, Mr. Elkanah and many others, just to have somebody there when the bullets are flying, just to have somebody there when your minister or your MEC or whatever is not there, is to be present. Just to be with this man they call Agent Orange in America. At a moment in Charlottesville, Virginia, when the whole country, this is actually why they choose presidents in that country. Americans are like us, they're very emotional people. The only reason they choose a president is when there is a tragedy, you come and you speak, not for white people, not for black people, for American citizens, and you say what happened there was an absolute tragedy, and then you shut up. Not this idiot. First he says everyone was wrong. That's like blaming the Nazis as well as the Jews and saying there was wrong on both sides. There cannot be wrong on both sides with white supremacists. All he needed to do, he didn't even have to say much, was to be present in the morning of the death of 3 people around Charlottesville. But he wasn't. He failed the test of a leader, which in fact he made everybody demurren instead of being present. I didn't like Ronald Reagan. I don't like his politics. I thought he was a danger to the world. But I tell you, for a brief second, because I was a student in that country at the time, when the space shuttle Challenger went up and exploded, he didn't say a word. He just went from one family to the next and just hugged them. That's what it means. No words. To be present. Are you present as a leader? And so I want to thank the business leaders for being present in the lives of the principals in the schools. You know, I'm a conventional educational researcher. So when I do talks on this stuff, and I already put Louise through the ringer, I say, Louise, don't tell me about all the stuff. Don't tell me about feeding schemes. Don't tell me about blankets and beanies. Don't tell me about all these things, because at the end of the day, the only thing that gets a poor kid out of trouble is when their learning attainments go that way. The rest is, by the way. Well, tonight I had to rethink that, because you see, if you're stopping and your eyes cold and you don't have a roof on your head, maybe that is what it means to be present. Maybe I must give up on my rather narrow view. We should still get there. But maybe there's something else. And what you've demonstrated through your love, through your compassion, whether it's Sanlam or the Westlake firm, or what you've demonstrated is in an hour of need, simply to be present. Because you see, those moments of crisis come and go. Grade 9, 16 years old, Crystal High School, shot through the head. Okay? It was in the papers for less than an hour in the media. It was gone. That's when you need to be present. So the other day I went back, in fact on Monday I think it was, to get my sugar-free biscuits. And now I'm really wondering whether this woman really exists. Do you remember a television series called Touched by an Angel? And you sort of see this person, and you're working with this person, you talk to, and then right at the end of the show, there's sort of a light that comes over her head. I'm absolutely convinced this woman doesn't exist. Because as I checked out at the engine garage, Woolies, I lie you not, there she stood, the woman who mopped the floor last year. And you know what she said? With all the things going on in the country, it's good to have you back, eh? And I started to cry. You see, I think I'm a leader in that moment. She is the leader because she is present. Thank you for being present.
Awesome.